Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with one of the most beautiful compositions ever in the history of chess. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. It was Vladimir Lenin, the Russian politician and communist revolutionary, who wrote to his brother in a letter on February 17th, 1910. And he said, beautiful thing. He thought this composition was a beautiful thing. And it is. It's a composition by Vasily and Mikhail Platov, and it was published in 1909. White to play and win. Let's look at the position. Not many pieces on the board. Yes, white is bishop and knight up, but look at that pawn on a2. Of course, everything is about that one. How can white win when black is about to queen? The first move is not so difficult, very logical. Bishop e7 to f6, covering the a1 square. And black's reply can only be d5, d4, closing that diagonal. And now what? Well, it looks like knight f3 might be the solution. And why? Because if you queen with black, which is the only move that makes sense, then you have a nice little bishop fork. Bishop takes d4 check, attacking the queen. And after queen takes, knight takes, king takes, you might think that you have a one king and pawn endgame. But you don't. Let's have a look. King f4. You have to take the pawn on d3. King g5, king e4, king h6, king f5, king takes h7, but then black draws with king f6. And why is this a draw? Let's have a look. If you go to g8 with the king, then of course there's king g5 picking up the pawn. And if you play h6, then there's king f7, king h8, king f8, and you can either go back with the king and then black goes back with his king, or you play h7. But then after king f7 it is stalemate. So that king and pawn endgame is a draw. What a pity, because knight f3 looked a very nice solution because of the bishop takes d4 move, forking king and queen. So let's go back to the position after 2d4. Well, what else can we do? Well, let me give you the solution. The beautiful solution is knight e2. How can that be the solution? Well, let's look at it. If you take that piece with the king, then of course that's bishop takes d4, and white wins easily because the a1 square is firmly in white hands now. But of course the main move here is a1 queen. And now black has a queen. And how can white win now? Well, here comes the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful moves out of the history of the game of chess, is the winning move, knight c1. What an incredible move. And why is this the solution? Well, let's see how beautiful this all is. The threat, so let's make a silly move for black, for example queen b1. The threat is bishop g5 checkmate. So that is one of the ideas of the knight going to c1, is that it now protects the pawn on d3 and protects the e2 square, so enabling the bishop to give checkmate. Okay, so that's something that we have to take into account. If we take the knight with the new queen, queen takes c1, then there's also bishop g5, and it's not checkmate now, but white will win the queen. For example, king takes b3, bishop takes c1, and this is easily winning for white. He's just a piece up, and the d pawn, if it advances, will be taken off by the bishop. Okay, so you cannot take the knight. What else can you do? You can try h7, h6 to take bishop g5 out of the position. But then white plays the nice move bishop e5. And the threat is now on f4, bishop f4. Checkmate is a threat. So h6 doesn't work either, because white can just renew the threat on a different square. Let's try something else. Can we move king d2 to get out of the checkmate threat and to save our queen? Well, not really, because there's another idea behind knight c1, and that's knight b3 check, forking king and queen, winning the queen and winning the game. So it looks like we're in trouble with black, but the only thing left to try is queen a5, trying to protect that g5 square this way. Now of course there's no bishop e5 to renew the threat on f4, because that e5 square is also protected by the queen. But here comes the solution. The only move that wins is bishop takes d4 check. And now there is two possible king moves. King d2, then there's that knight b3 check again, picking up the queen. And if the king takes the bishop, there is this same move, knight b3, and also here white forks king and queen, and after king takes d3, knight takes e5, knight takes a5. This ending is very simply one for white, because he still has that pawn on h5. Vladimir Lenin said, "It is a beautiful thing." He wrote that in a letter to his brother. And I am sure you agree that this composition is really, really beautiful. Vasily and Mikhail Platov, 1909. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and you can leave a comment if you want. This is Rick from Chester & Press. Thank you for watching.